Welcome to Starseed Radio Academy. It's Tuesday, May 29th, 2012, and I'm your host, Ariel Taylor, with my co-hosts Lavandar and Sierra. This evening, we're pleased to have David and Celest with us, who have both had walk-in experiences coming as emissaries from Arcturus and the Pleiades. Celeste Bluestar and David of Arcturus have chronicled many transmissions from both Pleiadians and Arcturans to help mankind into the Golden Age, and published those messages in several books, such as the God Book series, Beyond the Journey, and many transmissions from highly advanced and evolved beings, which they call master messages. Their websites are bluestarspeaks.com and Awakened Hearts. That's AWAKENED, awakenedhearts.com, where you can find all their books and messages. Hello, David and Celeste, you're on the air.
Hello.
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 Thank you for having us on.
Well, it's our pleasure. Lavandar, I think you were
I have the questions here.
Okay.
Okay. So, Celeste and David, let me start with you, Celeste. If you would just give us a little background about how you came to know that you were a walk-in. And I noticed that when I did your charts that you have so many alignments to the Pleiades, and so does David. So why don't you start, Celeste, by talking about your experience of being a Pleiadian walk-in?
Okay. The basic way that I can explain this is that when I walked in, I actually walked in from the Atlantic Ocean in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and although my predecessor went in with brown hair, I came out of the water platinum blonde, which was very startling to the group of people that were around me at the time. And I knew immediately, I felt a little bit disorganized. Physically, I was having a problem because something kept trying to pull my right side and pull me out to sea. And as I looked down, it had long, long fingernails and actually left a mark on my right side for about 3 weeks. Well, once I got onto dry land, I just took my time, looked around, and I must tell you, everything looked strange to me, absolutely strange. It took me months to learn how to literally walk in a physical vehicle. It's just not the same as at home. And did I know? Yes, I knew my name as soon as I arrived. And I had to look around and remember where I landed. And at that point, everybody was coming in. My father, Bluestar the Pleiadian, many other evolved Pleiadian sources, but also those from Andromeda, Arcturus. They were just all around me. And we continued to just hover together for a year. I did not really go out in public very much, which was rather strange, I suppose, but I was busy going through closets and looking at the clothes that had been hanging there and throwing everything out. They were the dullest clothes I'd ever seen in my life. And it just wasn't who I was. So I read a lot. I did not watch television. I still don't. And just focused on me, on what I was doing here, remembering the things I was supposed to remember. And little by little, it does not happen all at one time. Those ancient memories surface. And when they do, there is no turning back. Of course, it also meant I had to sever ties with the people that would have known me if it hadn't been for the predecessor. and it meant severing ties, and I relocated. In fact, I've been moved all over this country. Oh, let's see, I think it's 23 times now.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, who was taking care of you during this time?
Who, you mean physical, human?
Yeah, I mean, was someone kind of a caretaker for you, making sure you were okay in the physical?
No, it was just me and me.
Wow. That must have been a little difficult. Wow. So go ahead.
It really, really was difficult because not that I've ever tried to fit in, because I couldn't fit in anywhere, I don't think, if I even tried. There's something about me, and I can't tell you what it is because I see myself differently than others see me. But even then, when that all happened with this particular walk-in experience, people just do not know what to make of me. And interesting enough, women have always seemed to be the most timid around me. And men, well, put it this way, I was introduced to a Catholic priest about 6 months after that period of isolation. He just happened to be at somebody's house that I had met, and he took one look at me, and I swear to you, this is a true story. And in front of me, he blessed himself and turned around and walked away.
Wow. What do you think happened to him?
Well, I think I gave him the shock of his life, and to this day, I doubt if that man has any idea why. Whatever he saw about my presence just hit some kind of a deep vein in him, and this was a Roman Catholic priest, that I don't think he ever really recovered from it. I asked the woman later about it, and she said he wouldn't talk about it. She just said, I have to go now. And he left her house.
Yeah, wow. So when you came in, were you aware that you had a high electromagnetic field? How was technology around you, television sets and computers and those kind of things?
Oh, it was terrible. Oh, my God, it was so bad. I couldn't walk through a parking lot without every car in the lot. There are those little robbery things people have on their cars. They were going off. Horns would start blowing. Lights on the cars would flash. And not a single person was in them.
How about when you were in hotels? Would fire alarms go off?
Oh, yes. Fire alarms. The worst one was when we were all told to evacuate because some alarm went off that signaled a bomb threat in the hotel. And that happened back on the East Coast. And, of course, everybody had to be evacuated. And I'm standing out there thinking, I didn't do this. I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
And the whole time you know you did.
I know, but you know what would it be like if I went and said that to anyone?
Oh, I understand. Oh, totally. Oh, totally. There was a time when I couldn't go into Radio Shack at all. So I know. I completely understand that. Well, tell us a little bit about when did you decide to start writing and receiving transmissions?
Okay. A year after I arrived, let's see, in 91, I was told very clearly that now was the time. And I knew those key words anyway. And it was now is the time to sit down, and Father visited me, and he said, okay, I want you to start taking my transmissions. It won't only be mine. There are going to be many others that will be in contact with you. But first, I want you to build a website. And I thought, oh, great, computers, this ought to be good. And make it the Blue Star Speaks website. And I started writing, putting everything down, started making notes for future books of things he wanted to speak about. And then within 6 months of that, everything else just seemed to break open. a lot of the information I was given from many other sources, though, they were meant to be kept quiet, kept secret, until I was told that a grid line intersection had arrived when it was necessary that for information to be made public. So I've done a lot of writing.
Were you still in Virginia Beach at this time?
No. Oh, no. I was moved from the East Coast and then up and down the East Coast and then Midwest and then to the southern Florida and then up to in Montana and you name a state. It's so bad, it was name a state. I've been on all coasts. I've been in the middle of the country. And I've always told, okay, it's time, you have to move now. Now is the time. Let's do it. Get ready and go. In one state that I was living in, I had been warned. It's on the West Coast, so I won't say what state, but I had been warned that I would be given a signal on when I had to leave there, and the moment that I was given that warning to get out and get out now, to do so. And no more than 3 months later, I was told, get out now. And they set me on, I arrived on August 26th in Arizona. I mean, this has just been my life. I've been in all these different states. And I will say it takes a lot of energy, physical energy to do that, because I am not a loner. I love people dearly. But at the same time, I simply have to use a great deal of discernment on who I am interacting with for my own safety, as far as for other reasons, but that's a primary one right there.
Well, don't you think also that the way you're put together now, that you're a sending and receiving station, and that you had to be maybe in those places for a stabilizing effect for the area, or possibly the activation of other starseeds in your surroundings?
Yes, I will agree with all of that. And I can also tell you that I was to leave my, quote, indelible fingerprint in every area that I was sent to, because that was co-joining with many others' indelible fingerprints, all as a method to breathe life in the form of light into all those areas and still act as a type of marker, a marker that would, in a superconscious fashion, literally call out to others who were starseeds, walk-ins, or just Earth Star children themselves. And they would all receive the benefit of it, but it would also activate a part of their DNA that they were unaware needed to be activated.
Yeah, right. Did you ever notice the places where you were at during the times of Pleiadian lineup, which is around May 15th to the 20th or November 15th to the 20th? Do you happen to recall maybe some of the places you were during the time of Pleiadian lineup when the Pleiadian ships would come in and be here for those 3 days? Oh,
yes. In fact, I can even tell you, I know the various states I was in during those times, and I was always involved in some type of a project that was so very important that had to somehow be amplified. Those are very important dates. And here's some irony. As you're speaking about it and asking me, my feet are vibrating.
Okay. Well, the physical body that you were born into was born on May 18th, which is 26 Taurus, which is the high mark of the Pleiades. So we talked about that the other day. Yes.
Right. But yes, it is important. I think everybody should be aware that even if they may not know who they are on a conscious level, that should never, ever keep them from still trying to be all that they can be. Because we're all here for a very important reason. It's not only to help one another and offer support to one another spiritually, but to do something right for this planet where so much has been done that's wrong.
Let me ask you, Celeste. Do you leave your body at night and go aboard ship and then come back to human form? We call it human by day, ET by night.
Every night, and even in the afternoon, one or both of us may, we call it woozy. There's this sudden rush of a feeling that's like sudden sleep need, but it has nothing to do with sleep. And we have to lie down, and the next thing, we're gone, we're aboard ship. We never know when we're coming back, just that we will.
Right. Well, this is a very interesting time that we're all going through right now, because the DNA has been really activated in so many starseeds. And, of course, I told you and David the other day, I feel like that the Pleiadians really have the play on the planet. Everybody gets their turn, and they seem to have more bloodline DNA experiments going on the planet than anyone else. And I feel like that we're all coming to terms with who we are and why we're here. So tell me a little bit about how you met David.
Oh, you just love this. I guess we could call it part of a space odyssey in its own right. I had seen David, probably 2 to 2.5 years before I met him physically. And we were both living in Washington State at the time. And I had seen him, and I kept looking, and he kept coming closer. And he still had the same face he had the last few times that I had known him. And I waited and waited, and I'm thinking, okay, now what's going on? And then the last time I saw him, before I met him physically again, he was wearing a T-shirt with a huge rainbow trout on it. I swear this is true. 2 weeks later, it was 2 weeks later, I went to Trout Lake, Washington, where I was speaking at James Gillian's. And who walks up, and I turn around and look, but there's David, and he's wearing the rainbow trout shirt.
We love James. Oh, gosh, that's a great story. So what did he say to you?
He smiled. And somehow we just kept in touch, and we talk on the phone all the time when the conference was over at James's, and we email, and he had asked me, and he had a session with me that was so cute, and during the session, he asked me where he would be living. And I told him that I had seen him surrounded in mountains and a mesa. And he didn't say much, but he went back to his home, and I went on to where I was living. And a few months later, I called him, and I said, David, I know where you're moving. You're moving to Arizona. And within 3 months, we moved there together.
Oh, my goodness. And what year was that?
We arrived there on August 26th. Is that 26th? 2003.
Okay. Wow. So then the two of you started having transmissions together, and the two of you started writing. Is that right?
Yes, we did. And I was told to create the Pleiadian flagship star crystal, and I was shown the diagrams for it. So David and I worked together and created that, which is an amazing energy polarizer, and the transfiguration accelerator, and so many other things, including, of course, the true Atlantean ones. We just worked on everything together so that even after we married, after we arrived in Arizona, we still kept on, and it's never stopped. We just keep getting bigger and bigger projects.
Well, tell me about the Accelerate. Tell me about, are these actual technologies in physical form that you're talking about?
They are. What I was shown was something to teach people how to build for themselves the physical properties, exactly what they can do to help people, and allow people to build them and let people know what to expect, and the rest was up to the people, and that's exactly what happened.
And so what did they do exactly? I mean, is this about protection or enlightenment, or if you're sick, does it make you well? Explain a little bit about how they work.
The Palladium Flagship Star Crystal is an energy polarizer.
Okay.
And it has a way, they spin. And I've known people, and so has David, who have them after they learned about them from us, and they'll catch them spinning out of the corner of their eye, and when they hurry up and turn their head, they'll stop. They literally polarize the energy. You can feel it is an amazing creation that was simple enough to do, to give people. It helps to protect them, yes. But from my point of view, the greatest gift is the polarizing effect that it has. The Ta, which is the Transfiguration Accelerator, it's built into a pyramid shape, and people can sit in it. They can have them in their house, on their patio, or we've arranged it, made it so that they can take them apart and travel to the beach, which a lot of people like to do that, and then set it up. And it literally accelerates. If you can watch it sending beams of energy all through the parts of it, up into the sky, and we noticed that a lot of the chemtrails would disappear when we had our Ta outside.
So do you make these and sell them on your website?
We did. Now we just put them all in book form, and people just can buy the book and follow the diagram. We took painstaking work to get the details in the book so that it's affordable for everybody.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, it has to be something that everybody can afford, or else we would be doing something wrong, and we just don't do that. So we decided to make it as easy as possible for people.
Okay. So you have, 9 books in publication right now?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the God Book series, Beyond the Journey and Life in the Hereafter.
Oh, that series started actually when God told me, he just came in one day and said, I want you to write my books. And I said, okay. I think I should have said, why me? But I never did get to that part. So I asked him if David could also work with us and take messages from God, and he said, of course he can. So we sat down, and God started out with volume 1, and then God said, then I said, then he said. And we invited Susie Ward, mother of Matthew, to be a contributing writer for volume 1. And next thing we do, when volume 1 was finished, God waited a few days, and he said, oh, Celeste, there are going to be 8 books in this series. And I remember thinking, but you only said 1, and he didn't answer, so who might argue with him, you know? So, well, I could. But the next thing we know, bang, 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 he gives us the titles of the book. We knew all the titles of the books after the first book was written. And all the chapters. He didn't tell us any of the details about what he was going to say. He never does. He'll just say, okay, it's time to sit down. I'm ready to write. You and David, sit there. So I'll be working on one computer on, say, chapter 1, while David's working on his laptop on chapter 1. But we're both receiving information from God at the same moment that's completely different, but is all about chapter 1. And this is how the whole series has gone. The latest book, though, Beyond the Journey, Life and the Hereafter, I agree with God, and I'm sure David will say the same thing, but it is the most important book that anybody will ever read. Everybody wants to know about life after death instead of wanting to know about life after life, because it's really about the continuous series of lives that each person has. He talks about nirvana. He goes into the most detailed explanation, and it's nothing anybody's ever heard about or read about in any book on this planet. We feel so honored to be able to do this work with him and still continue on with all the others that we work with. In many ways, it's a juggling act because we'll just get one project done or think it's done, and then suddenly it may be the Masters, it may be Master Cato or someone else, or Commander Theta will suddenly appear and say, okay, now we have to talk. We need the public to be made aware of such and such. And when that happens, God will usually say, take a couple weeks down and relax a little bit, and then we'll start the next book. And that's just the way this has always been.
Oh, goodness.